What is up, guys? Welcome back to maybe my favorite podcast. I don't want to put down the other podcasts, but we have fun on this podcast. It is the Formula One podcast, episode number 3. We're going to be talking about all things Austrian Grand Prix. We're going to be going over everything, maybe get a look ahead at the upcoming Grand Prix. We're going to see what this Grand Prix told us about the season. I'm super excited about this. We're going to get into a lot of fun stuff. If we just want to run through names again, starting with Audi, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, Audi. I am a McLaren and Lando Norris fan. Tommy?
Yeah, I'm call me Big Max and Red Bull fan.
Yeah, Arjun, Big Max, and Red Bull fan as well.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys will get to know their names already, but just wanted to run through it again. Let's just get right into it with Audi. Audi, we all had our winner predictions. I think it was 3 for Max Verstappen. I went for Lewis, and honestly, Lewis wasn't that bad of a choice. I mean, finishes number 3, Max finished 2, so pretty much the same thing when you get down to it. But Leclerc wins. How big of an upset is this in the Grand Prix, Audi?
I would say it's a pretty big upset. I wouldn't say it's too surprising. And I may have just contradicted myself there. But I think with Max's dominance here, it pretty much seemed that it would be Max, but I guess Ferrari, we know they have the car. But yeah, I didn't see it happening, but I guess he proved us wrong twice. No. Who got pole? Charles got pole, right?
Oh,
No.
Max
got
Max.
pole. Yeah, so yeah, I was surprised because especially after what we saw last year, it was like just dominance. Even in quali, I think I definitely knew the person who was in front had like a little bit of an advantage. So I think Max definitely. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking about the sprint race. Didn't break a sweat in the sprint race, Max. So I was like, so that sort of caught me off guard. But I guess it was the whole thing about Charles and Carlos fighting during the sprint race with each other, as opposed to Red Bull, who's, I guess, opponent number 1 for them. So like, it's good. It's good. More competition. Ferrari, or at least Charles, maybe not constructors, but Ferrari steps back into the race. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Fun.
Arjun, the Ferrari car looked just kind of faster than the Red Bull car in the actual race. Any sort of reasoning to that?
Yeah, so I think it was pretty apparent that between qualifying and the race, something pretty major happened. Mattia's secret sauce, if you will. So what really seemed to happen there is during qualifying in the sprint race, it was apparent that the Ferraris were battling each other and they were on a much lower engine mode. But during the race, I think Ferrari cranked up their engines to the max, almost to the limit. Now, we know that Charles Leclerc has a relatively new engine, and Carlos Sainz is running the old spec version. Or sorry, it's the opposite way around. Carlos has a newer engine. And so they cranked up both of the engines on the cars, it seems. And I think one thing that is leading me to this conclusion is that when Carlos was trying to overtake Max, his engine blew out in spectacular fashion, which leads me to believe that Ferrari maybe cranked up their engine too far and overdid it in terms of prioritizing speed over reliability. And we saw that Charles was just kilometers faster on the straights than Max this weekend in the race. And so I think the engine had something to do with it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you said, Charles was just faster on the straights, definitely led to the victory, in my opinion. Kami, do you think this will be a trend in the upcoming Grand Prix, or can we kind of expect a reverting back to the norm with Max winning more Grand Prix in the future than Leclerc?
I mean, I think there's always going to be competition up until the end of the season, but I don't really see this being a big trend. We saw Max really struggle with tire degradation this weekend, which we usually hadn't seen the Red Bulls struggle with. So maybe that's just an odd race out and it'll go back to the Max dominance. But yeah, as Arjun was saying, Ferrari really cranked up the engines this weekend. And still, they didn't really get that great of a result, if you think about it, with Carlos going out. So yeah, I think Max has still got a pretty comfortable winning like end to the season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some point they do need to find that right balance because they can't DNF a car every race, and that probably it got their attention. And it's not that Charles's ended race ended smoothly either. He also had like the throttle issue. Now we don't know if that's separate from the engine or not, but I think they'll definitely go take a better look at that and probably reconsider that balance that Arjun was referring to.
And one thing we have to note, right, is like in the next race, Carlos will have to start from the back because he'll need a new power unit, meaning that Ferrari, will most likely lose another 20 points in the Constructors' Championship, right? Unless Checo does his magic and smashes into the wall again.
It's it's the thing though, with if you have the car, and if you have the strategy now, the ladder, as we know and as we established in previous episodes, is not Ferrari's strong suit. But if you have the car, people make it through the pack. Like look at George Russell. He was like down in 19th this race. He made it up to 4th or wherever he finished. Who knows? He could have gone even further. Checo, I think in Checo someplace was also like down in like 20th or 19th and made it back to like the top 5. So if you have the car, if Carlos has the car, if he has the pace, he can come back. Yeah, it's probably not going to be a podium, but I don't think you count it out entirely. But I am sort of cognizant, Arjun, of your opinions about Carlos. So I understand if you're sort of toning it down a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, I think the conversation is like, is Carlos as good as a driver as Russell and Checo? I mean, I don't know. I don't think Russell. I think Checo is pretty close. But with the superior car, like Adi said, I do think we can expect him to move up the leaderboard. How far he goes up just depends on how good he's able to overtake people.
My point thing, I think he'll get points.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many points he's going to get.
So Adi, you brought up Russell and Checo. Let's stay with you here, and let's talk about their lap 1 crash. Whose fault was that?
That's not a black and white question. That corner, there were, I think, 2 crashes in that corner in that race. There have been a few infamous ones. Hamilton knocking Alex Albon away from his first podium. It's a weird corner. I'm forgetting who it was. George, right, who understeered a little bit and went into him. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, the race commentary was talking about like whether Checo got ahead of him a little bit before he understeered. I don't know. I don't think that the understeer it's not an intentional thing. The car does it, but then I guess an insurance policy, you do want to give some space, but at the same time you're racing, right? So you got to be competitive. You can't even give people that tiny edge. I don't think Russell was at fault there. Checo, and also around the outside, is historically not the move to make. That is not a corner where you go around the outside. So I think if Checo is going around the outside, he understands the consequences. He understands what he's putting himself into. So I don't really think anyone's at fault there.
Arjun, do you agree with that? Yeah.
I kind of beg to differ. I think it was clear that the stewards found Russell at fault there. He was handed a 5-second time penalty. Now, that's not the worst of outcomes, right? It wasn't a 10-second stop and go penalty, but it's clear that they thought that he understeered into Checo, and it was Checo's corner because he was ahead. It wasn't smart of Checo to do the move there. It was so early in the race, and it was pretty clear that the Red Bull is way faster than the Mercedes on the straight, so he could have passed him with DRS in another few laps. And Helmut Marko even said so after the race, that what Checo did was a bit impulsive. And ultimately, I do place some blame on Checo for going for a move that early on, a much slower car.
Yeah, I agree. I think personally, I would say like just racing. Like Audie said, it's tough to put someone at fault. I mean, like the comments are always funny though. Like Checo says, like Russell needs to get his car under control, and Christian Horner is just like angry at Mercedes and stuff like that. The classic bickering we can come to expect. If we kind of move down the line at the Austrian Grand Prix, something that sticks out, Kami, is two Haas's in the top 10 again. Mick gets 6th, Kevin gets 8th. Back-to-back races where they're in the top 10. We had this conversation last time. We all kind of agreed they weren't going to be in the top 10 again, but here they are in the top 10 again. Why is that? And can we expect it for the next Grand Prix, Tommy?
Yeah, no, super impressive to see them really succeed, especially Mick. I think a lot of us were counting him out, but he put on like a great race this last weekend, fighting Lewis and all that. Why? I'm pretty sure they had a pretty significant upgrade package for Silverstone, and I guess that just carried on into Austria.
Also,
yeah.
I think quick thing beyond the upgrade package, the Red Bull Ring has historically been Haas's best track. This is where they've produced their best results in, I want to say 2018. They came in 2016. 2018, there was 1 year in like their first 4 years where I think they came like 7th or 8th in constructors, which is one of their highest finishes.
2018.
Yeah. So that year they also did well. I think they got a double points finish that year as well. So I think this track suits their car. Obviously their car has changed between 2018 and now. But yeah, I think a combination of the performance upgrade and the comfortability and history with the track, I think those both played a part in it.
For sure. I think I don't know. I think they're just getting slept on, and they can keep putting up good results if they keep it going. Another good result is Esteban Ocon gets 5th place. Audie, he's now moved up to 8th in the Drivers' Championship. Obviously, he's not going to win anything or podium, but he is 8th, which is notable. 23 points clear of Fernando Alonso. How good is Esteban Ocon driving right now?
I mean, I think it's fine. He's in the points, has a good car, or probably 4th car. Yeah, 4th car on the grid. Where'd he finish? 5?
Yeah.
Behind. Okay, you got to take into account the Red Bull gone, the Ferrari gone. They were both ahead of him before they got DNF'd. So, I mean, I think it's fine. I think it's honestly where he should be with the car that he has. Yeah, I think it's sort of in the middle. Nothing that impressed me too much. Again, I don't mean to go back, but I've been like super impressed by Mick in the last 2 weekends. But it seems that, remember like 2-3 weeks ago, all the pressure that like, oh, it's been 26 races and like, why is it taking him this long to score points? Is he really this good or not? We had this conversation. And I guess whatever Gunther said to him, he's like really loosened up. He seems a lot more comfortable driving the car. And I guess that's translated in the last 2 weeks. So he's been more impressive to me, and I guess to a lot more people than Esteban Ocon.
Arjun, Esteban Ocon or Mick Schumacher, more impressive? Go.
I would say Mick. I mean, Ocon has a better car. They're fighting for P5, right? Or P4, is it, in the constructors? 4, yeah, with McLaren. I think they're going to come out ahead because, Danny Rick is Danny Rick.
It's a tractor. Sorry.
Yeah, he's terrible. But yeah, I think Mick in that Haas car is really showing something special. And I look forward to France, actually, because I want to see if, at a track that they've historically struggled with, whether Mick's driving can really get him up into those points places.
Yeah, interesting. Honestly, I like Ocon.
Yeah, you were just saying. I just mean to say that now McLaren and Alpine are tied for 4th, 81 points apiece. So
I mean, I think what's interesting about these conversations in Formula One, it's like yes, Ocon has the better car, but I mean, he's doing pretty well with it. Like, it's not his fault that, you know, he has a better car than Mick. I would say Mick has been just driving his best of late, but Ocon's been doing really good as well. If we move down the top 10 as well, Kami, 2 McLarens in the top 10 for the first time in, I feel like, a long time. Maybe Azerbaijan
Monza.
was the last time.
I don't freaking remember the last time both of them were in the top 10.
I think Azerbaijan when they went 8-9. Kami, did we see anything from Daniel Riccardo today, or was he just lucky?
Actually wasn't watching Ricardo. I was kind of switching between the Kyrgios Djokovic match. So didn't really pay attention to this race, but I mean, good for him, I guess. Lando's still 2 places higher than him.
Yeah.
Finished 2 places higher. So I mean, he did well. Couple of people went out. Yeah, actually, I don't know. The McLaren looks pretty racy this weekend, I guess.
I watched it a little bit. I don't think so. Maybe this is just me being pessimistic. The other thing that didn't help, or this is another topic of contention there, the 5-second penalties, all the track limits. I don't know what it is about that. I've never seen so many time penalties that were right. It's the way the track is designed, how you go up and down and around the corners. From my personal experience trying to drive the course on a simulator, I got plenty of time penalties as well. It's hard. It's really hard to keep the car on the track around that like Red Bull corner, the last one going into the straight, because of it's like tilted. You're going downhill. It's like a 90-degree turn. So I guess the turns and curbs are more unforgiving than some of the other tracks. And I guess like the lack of metal barriers right there, the drivers feel inclined to take it a little quicker through the corner, you know. And like some of the you really see the 90-degree turns in the street circuits. I'm talking like Baku, like the first 2 or 3, and as well as some of the ones in Monaco. And when those like barriers are right there, obviously you feel more inclined to slow down the car and take it through safely. But otherwise you feel like just like sling it through. And I guess that's where people were going off. It was that, and then the turn where Lewis Hamilton went off during qualifying. But that was a little frustrating. And if not for maybe some of those time penalties, maybe Lando could have gotten like maybe a spot or 2 more, because he had a 5-second penalty.
For sure. Arjun, if we all kind of agree that Daniel Ricciardo, nothing special in 9th place, just a little bit of luck. And with the rumor mill swirling with Oscar Piastri of Alpine, it's been picking up lately. We talked about it on the last podcast. Has the door been left open for this other young Aussie driver, Oscar, to come in and take Daniel Ricciardo's spot at McLaren?
So I think that's an interesting rumor, because Danny Rick is scheduled to be with McLaren for the next 2 years, I believe.
Is he?
Yeah, I think he has a contract for at least the next year.
I was under the impression that it was a 2-year contract. I could be totally wrong, but
I think.
Yeah,
I
sorry,
don't
go
know.
ahead.
I read on Reddit, maybe not the most reputable source. But either way, I don't know if McLaren are willing to buy Daniel Ricciardo out of his contract for someone like Oscar Piastri, who's sort of new and unproven. So at this point, if I were McLaren, I wouldn't go for the rookie just yet, because remember that he has no racing experience at all. And to sort of thrust him into this new team is a bit risky. But I would love to hear Adi's thoughts on this, because obviously he's the McLaren expert.
Before we go to Adi, real quick.
Yeah.
I want to go to Kami, because I have this question. If you're Zach Brown, why wouldn't you buy out the contract? You have a ceiling with Daniel Ricciardo. You know what you're going to get. With Oscar Piastri, sure, you could be getting DNFs, but like,
you're already getting the DNF.
You're already getting those right now. Kami, why not go to the youngster?
Couple points. First of all, we know Danny Rick's contract is very expensive. He's getting paid a lot of money. So you have to buy that contract out. And then, sure, Oscar's a rookie, but you still have to pay him something. Also, it just looks bad on the team. Zach Brown took this risk with Danny and signed him onto this contract. And he was supposed to change the whole franchise, and it kind of flopped. So it looks poorly on him if they just cop out of this. And then, yeah, it's always an uncertainty with this new rookie guy. He has all the hype, sure, but he could also just be performing as poorly as Danny is right now. And they're just losing money, McLaren. So maybe they'll just like rebuild the team and wait, or maybe they'll do it. I don't know. But I think they should. I disagree with Arjun. I think they should. They should risk maybe like a worse driver at the beginning for like a higher ceiling, because Danny Rick, his time in F1 is coming to an end.
No, so like as of right now, what I read today, it almost seems like the ball is in Danny Rick's court. The report I was reading was that if he wants to stay, he can stay. It's almost like, just as sort of passive the team is during the race and during everything, it's like carrying over to this as well, that they're leaving it to Danny. Like if Danny Rick agrees to leave, then he's out. But if he puts his foot down and wants to stay, he gets to stay. So I don't know. And I guess money, only reason I'd be concerned about that is to like make sure, they have enough to actually give them a car, because the car is not, like, we heard so much crap this weekend about the McLaren car and how it's literally just tumbling down. Now they're saying that like Haas's pace is better, which it probably was. Lando couldn't even keep up to Mick. So I don't know. I think they need to prioritize, and again, I'm biased, but I think they need to prioritize Lando. You see every successful team, they prioritize one driver, they give them a car, and they hope that the second driver can play second fiddle and play along. And if they really want to be that championship team, they have to follow that model that Mercedes did with Valtteri and Lewis, or Max and Checo, or Max and whoever the heck he had in the past. Follow that winning model. And if they're not going to do that and try to protect Danny Rick, then I don't really know what I can do or hope for as a fan.
I agree. I think what intrigues me is the general manager, the president side of it, like who gave Ricciardo the contract. When you look at what Christian Horner did when he tried to find a second driver for Max Verstappen, he went after Gasly and Albon, who did not get the same contract as Ricciardo, kind of like a low risk rookie moves for Red Bull. But you look at what Zach Brown did, he gives a hefty sum to a aging Daniel Ricciardo. Arjun, no one freak out, but could this be a fireable offense for Zach Brown?
Oh, hot take. Wow. I think Zach Brown has McLaren's best interest at heart. Frankly, Danny Rick is one of those guys who he's almost the face of Formula One in a way, right? Like he's the face of Drive to Survive. He's so popular on social media. He's a great guy, right? In a way, I would say that amount of money was warranted with how well he had performed at Red Bull and at Renault. And I think there was no indication that he would come and flop at McLaren. So I would say, all things considered, I mean, hindsight is always 20/20, but Zach Brown did what was best at the time for the team. Now it's apparent, like Kami said, that we need to get out of this and bring in the new generation.
Luke, this sort of reminds me of like a Westbrook and the Lakers situation.
I agree.
Facts, yeah.
I agree. You're paying this person way too much money. And look, and I think it's a very good comparison. They're both still, I would say Daniel Ricciardo, like when it's all considered, had a great career in Formula One, just like Russell Westbrook had a great career in the NBA. But you have to look at what they are right now. And both players, like Kami said, great comparison. They're both not good right now. I like it. Kami, let's stick with you here. Let's go to my favorite driver on the grid right now. Let's look at AlphaTauri and Pierre Gasly. AlphaTauri was always, they're the second team for Red Bull, right? Everyone knows that, but they've always put in relatively good mid-table results. Is it me or is the team just not there this year?
No, yeah, you're totally right. Last year they were performing. Pierre was putting up great performances, and there were talks of would he get promoted again. But this year, I don't know. It's just been a sad season for them. They're not even like a midfield team anymore. They're near the bottom with like Gotifi and all them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It confuses me because the Red Bull car is so strong and they're sister teams, right? The driver pair is solid. I think Pierre's a great driver. But yeah, obviously something's not working, and we'll see. We'll see if they even have, I don't know if they have like the resources to turn it around, but we'll see.
I agree. Audie, if I give you three options, you got to point to one of them and say that's the reason AlphaTauri isn't good this year. Drivers,
Okay.
car, management.
I'm gonna go into the car, not the car as a whole, because they have the same Red Bull powertrain, or they have the Honda, right? They have the same thing that Red Bull has. So it's clearly something about the remaining design of the car, because that is entirely independent. I've never heard anything about their management. So again, I could just be uninformed and I don't know. But it's not like Ferrari where you see them fucking up, they're just messing up their strategy. But it's I don't know. It seems like there's something wrong with the car. Like if you have that engine, there's no reason it can't keep up.
I agree. Like Arjun said, or like Kami said, sorry, Pierre Gasly, I'm biased, but I do still think a quality F1 driver. Second year for Yuki, put the car in the wall a bunch, but still very fast. So you're kind of left with the car. Arjun, do we think AlphaTauri rights the ship? Do they get on some kind of run of form for the French or Hungarian Grand Prix, or can we kind of expect the same?
You heard it here first. I think the next few Grand Prix are going to be the redemption hour for AlphaTauri. I do think that they are going to make up places. Pierre Gasly recently signed a contract for next year. Tsunoda is showing that he is controlling his temperament and no longer swearing as much on the radio. So I think that they, as a team, are just extremely consistent, and it'll just come down to which circuits suit them. And I think they'll be able to make their way into the points in the next few. I think Pierre did really well at the French Grand Prix last year, which is always great to hear because that's his home race. So hopefully he does well in the next race.
I agree. Let's stay kind of at the less sexy bottom right here. Let's go to Kami. Let's look at Aston Martin here, right? Sebastian Vettel gets 17th. Lance Stroll gets 13th. If you had to pick a team, who do you like more, Aston Martin or AlphaTauri?
AlphaTauri, I think so. I think the Aston might be a better car, but there's more talent within the driver pairing at AlphaTauri, and I can't stand Lawrence Stroll being in management. But I thought the Aston Martin was supposed to be good this year. I don't know what's been going on, but I think.
Given how much they copied Red Bull's design
at
the beginning of the year.
There was some practice session in the rain where Vettel was just smoking it. He was in the top 3, which is good to see, but I don't know.
I think he proceeded to a Q1 exit.
Yeah.
And it was really confusing why it happened.
Yeah, they're both awful teams.
It was Montreal.
Yeah.
They were both killing it. And then he got 17th.
Yeah. Audie, it's tough because I feel like we're obliged to talk about these bottom feeders, but they're just not that. They just don't do that much. If you look at the second driver for these teams, would you rather have Yuki Tsunoda or Lance Stroll?
Yuki, because I think he's there on more merit. They both have a little bit of a temper, but I'd take Yuki.
Yuki definitely has a temper.
Not a bad thing. Max had a temper last year and won.
Yeah, just won a championship, Yuki.
Yuki could do it. Arjun, let's jump up into your rivals. P3 and P4 for Mercedes, a good result, especially considering they both put the car into the wall they both crashed their cars in qualifying.
It's fine. They got like top 10 starts. Like
I agree, but
go to like P20 and then I'll be a little more impressed.
Yeah.
Fair enough. A shaky qualifying, to say the least, gave the mechanics a bit of a job to do before the race. As a competitor, what do you think of Mercedes' performance?
It's impressive, to say the least. I'm genuinely worried that they are going to start giving us some trouble up front, not with Max. Max is going to sail off into the sunset. I'm worried that Russell and Checo are going to start having some more scraps. Carlos will join in because he's the worst out of the three. But I think that the Mercedes, if they bring a second upgrade package, will be at least as fast, if not faster, than Red Bull at some circuits if Red Bull continue to have these tire degradation issues and some of the problems that we've been seeing. So this result is definitely promising for them. And it shows that Lewis is finally getting on top of the car, which is something that wasn't so much the case earlier this season. So I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with two very consistent drivers on the grid.
I agree for sure. Let's close out this Austrian Grand Prix segment review. Kami, after this, Charles Leclerc is 38 points behind Max Verstappen. Do you agree? Do we think this is a clean sailing? I'm not even saying Charles Leclerc wins the Drivers' Championship, but does he make it interesting, or will this always be a 40-point gap?
No, I think it's going to be a lot closer than it is right now. It just takes one DNF, honestly, from Max for it to close up. We saw Max was leading by probably the same amount, maybe even more last year. And then Silverstone hit, Lewis took him out. And just like that, the rest of the season was very interesting. And Charles is a quality driver. He's got a great car under him. So it's going to be close. I'm not really comfortable with Max winning, like calling Max the winner just yet, but I think he's a good enough driver. If all goes well, it'll be a fun end to the season.
Adi, what do you think?
Yeah, you can't call anything yet. But we're just going into the summer break. I think we're like just at the halfway mark now. Anything can happen. Maybe we see some of those like Red Bull reliability issues from earlier in the season. Who knows? So yeah, definitely can't call it till it's done.
I agree. Arjun, final bit before we go to a little bit of an intermission. We've got the French Grand Prix, the Hungarian Grand Prix before like a month break before Belgium. Do we think Charles closes the gap on Max with these two Grand Prix, or will the gap be extended?
So I think we saw last season that these two tracks are some of Max's strongest. The French Grand Prix was quite an epic race, actually. Max was, I think, over a pit stop behind Lewis. He overcut Lewis and on fresher tires caught up to him at like the second to last lap of the race. So Max has definitely shown some racecraft here. And Hungary, of course, as well. So I think it's going to take a miracle from the Ferrari engine to beat Max on pure racecraft in the upcoming 2 weekends. But I wouldn't count on Ferrari after the summer break. I think we've seen that they can come out swinging in the development war, given a few weeks of break and time to settle the car.
I agree for sure. All right, we're going to jump into a little bit of a break, and then we'll talk a little bit about the French Grand Prix for the final 20 minutes. We will see you in a little bit.